So my interest in art really started very simply. When I was 10 to 12 years old, I used to listen to radio programs. Um, Jack the All-American Boy, The Whistler, Shadow, and I used to go to the papers and get the rolls of paper that they would discard from the Columbian paper, which I delivered, and then I'd bring that out and I'd just draw while I'm listening to these programs. So that started it. And then when I was in grade 7, I started to do op art, which was way before its time. And my teacher was a famous sculptor at school. And so he published several of my pieces at that time in a book. And so I thought, well, there must be something here. So he encouraged me all the time to do more and more art. And I found I really loved it. So I'd be in the operetta, I'd sing the lead in the romantic opera, but I would also do most of the scenery, painting and so on. And so that was something that also was kind of added. So I combined music and art at that point. So then I'd hoped to go to Vancouver Art School, but all they wanted was abstract stuff, and I'm not abstract. And so I said, well, I can't waste my time on this. So I went to university for 3 years and took medicine. But I decided after 3 years that I really wasn't cut out for that. And so I got a scholarship singing, and I went to Toronto, and I studied voice. Then I studied a degree in music, where I teach all the instruments, 15 different instruments, all the brasses, woodwinds, percussions, everything like that. And at that time, I was completely absorbed in music. It took a lot of work to do to learn all these instruments in a short time. 3 months per instrument. So you had to take it from nothing to play something. So anyway, I did some artwork while I was there, but not a lot. But when I found out my courses were a bit frustrating, to say the least, and I'd art. I can get into art, and it transports you to another place. And so it was very important. And spiritually, I was looking at that point. I was raised in a Christian home. And so I basically believed, but I wasn't going to go for the whole schmazzola. There's some things I got to know myself. So I left it all for 10 years. And at that time, I was going through art, and I was going through philosophy, and I was reading books. And I read a lot of Ayn Rand when I was 13, which is quite young for that book. It was very deep philosophy. But there was artists in there, and they encouraged me to be more art inclined. So I thought Leonardo da Vinci was the last word. Van Gogh was my hero, or Van Gogh in Netherlands. And so I started to copy their work. And Michelangelo. And that plus the encouragement from my teacher, I discovered that I had some ability. So then the rest is kind of history. I just see different objects that I like to reproduce. One of my favorite subjects, of course, is mountains. This one is just a quick little Israeli giraffe. and so I'm just doing a little bit of it. Now, this particular technique is not too well known on the West Coast here or in Israel, where we're spending a lot of our time. It's called scratchboard, and literally that's what you do. You receive this black piece of paper, you draw a very light line drawing, and then you just take it from there and draw the animal or the picture out of that. And this one's strictly from memory. This is called Winter Tree, and I just made that up. But it gives the feeling of bare branches and storm clouds and all the rest of it. So it's all very literal. And then I lectured several places at university and other places, private people are interested in art. I have a theory that because all the nations were involved, in a sense, in the Holocaust, they knew about it, but they didn't do anything, that their music lost the melody and art lost its subjects. And so you end up abstracting things. the melodies that are in composers' lives up until the 30s and 40s and 50s and beyond are usually, you don't know where they're going. It's not something you can whistle when you leave the theater after you've seen a concert. And the art was this, this, bang, put some paint on, Jackson Pollock put some paint on worms and watch them what they do on the canvas. And he should pay those worms because they're doing the work for him. Anyway, so all these artists were picking up abstract ideas. They were drawing out of the art, a la Picasso, who led the way into a blind alley, as far as I'm concerned. So the old master's technique was set aside, and they did everything from a blob of this, a blob of that, and I just wasn't impressed. So I left all of that and, studied music. So then I studied opera. I studied opera, did several operas, performed in the operas, and then I found that I had to make some scenery in Jerusalem. So I designed the scenery for an opera called Amala Night Visitors, which was a very elaborate set. So I had to conceive it and then paint it and draw it and then also act as one of the kings. So it was back to the same thing again, this combination. Well, this particular technique, you don't have messy oils or messy anything else. The problem is you got to do it right the first time because you can't change it very well because the composition of this material is such that you just can't paint over it with dark. It just doesn't work. It's just blobs and things. So it mainly is the drawing out of this. I got a little picture as a guide. It should take me about 30 minutes to make this drawing. So this is what you do. You kind of rough it out first, and then you start putting in where the light is. And you got to be careful that you don't scratch too much dark because that's your substance. So I go down here and I draw all the fur and things of the animals, and try to not lose all my dark material. So this is a rather strange looking giraffe, but it's the best I can do under the conditions here. Okay, that's one eye. So if you wonder what that is, that's an eye. Here we go. This goes along there. Art has moved out of technique into kind of painters are painting for painters. Composers are trying to compose for composers. But the person as the part of it, as you view these things, aren't easy. Not easy for an audience to relate to it. Almost have somebody go along with the picture, explain what the heck you're putting down here. I prefer to find energy and strength and ideas from just forms that you can recognize. It's kind of realism. And I'm interested more in life than death. And when a person can't respond to the figures, like for example, you leave certain things out. You don't pedantically put everything in, but you leave things out. So the viewer enters your picture and finishes that line mentally. And you finish this line and look at that and, yeah, wow. And then he almost sees, well, that's nice. I could do that. And it's approachable for him. And as viewers, you really want to become part of the picture. Anything beautiful, you always want to be part of, okay? So I trust that the pictures have a beauty of something lively, and so that people want to be part of them. So eventually, I haven't sold a lot of pictures, I've sold some, but eventually I will make copies of these, make prints of these, and make them available to people. Right now, they're not in that form. I have to find a good printer and print them all, sort of thing. I'm just pouring out ideas in pictures, but now that I'm at the age I am, it's something to do as a sedentary thing. Not not so much activity and travel. We've traveled to 42 countries, singing and music and hauling 8 and 10 bags and instruments and the accordions and all this stuff for years. And it's really time that I be realistic about my years. And this is far more, shall I say, passively, actively involved. So, so I'm thrilled about the interest that's developing in the art, my art. I've had several one-man shows here in Abbotsford, but I prefer not to sell them until I've made prints of ones I really like, and so I don't have to lose them in terms of going to somebody else. On the other hand, I love to have people see the work and enjoy it because it's lively. I'll show you something in a few minutes that you'll see that the energy that's in it, the drive that's in it, is projected by this particular technique. It's a high contrast technique where it's very dramatic. It's almost more dramatic than color. Color kind of does everything for you. This tends to, there's a secret, kind of secretiveness about black and white because it's just suggested. Even the old movies that are coming back and people watching, they're thrilled about the color combination. Some of, anyway, that's the idea, is to get a reaffirmation of that life is worth living, and let's have a look at the things that are alive that we relate to. I belong to the Fraser Valley Art Guild, and so I did a lot of studio stuff with live models and things like that. So I've got a lot of stuff like that, which is more, it's bigger and more focused on one thing, like a model and whatever. In North America, our faces are fairly bland compared to where we're living a lot of time in Jerusalem. You get a phenomenal cross-section of different kinds of people. Different people have gone through an awful lot, and their face show it. They think a lot, and their eyes show it. There's the different things. So I enjoy portraits. I did a lot of portraits in university to put myself through. Well, I like scratchboard, but also I do work with color. This, for example, is I like birds, like animals. This is a falcon. And that's a combination of both ink and paint. So there's that. But I also like to work with, I make, this is a root, but then I put color on it, and it almost creates a different picture. This is a route that I saw up in Lake Caribou, and I drew it. So I'd like to take things like that from life and emphasize them. And then this is an old man making falafels that you eat in Israel. And then there's to a light. And I see as a metaphor, Israel's been sent to be the light of the world. And this guy is dealing with elemental food, and he's have his own light, which he's creating. So he's feeding people, and he's also spending time philosophizing as he's cutting these falafel pitas and so on down here. This is one of the synagogues that the Jordanians ruined when they ruined 57 of them. And this is one of the ones they ruined was his left. And I thought the ruin was beautiful in itself. So I did and then the black and white. It has a kind of a mysterious quality to it. You don't know what's behind those windows, or we don't know what the story is. Okay, the subjects vary tremendously. This you recognize one of our 57,000 eagles in BC, and so material is pastel oil pastels. It's like crayon, but it's got oil to it, and it gives it the same effect. Okay, and then this is a young Israeli soldier from the 50s and 60s. So I made a film on Israel in 1971, and this is one of the figures that I prepared for it. And then I also like to do machinery. And this is going through Revelstoke. There's the Revelstoke Mountain Glacier. And I rode on this train when I was 9 years old by myself. I went down to visit my cousin down in West Summerland. And this is a historic, kind of historic train. So I like that, and I like this. This is the first steam engine they had here in BC. Okay, but then I like to go up in the mountains, and that's Black Tusk. A very nice place to be, to walk. And this is Mount Burgess, which is on the back of the $10 bill, but I've done it in ink. So that's an ink treatment, pen and ink. I mentioned earlier the energy. This is waterfalls, but you see the energy, the drive that's in the waterfall is portrayed by the ink, the black and white. I find that it's very strong. If you colored that, it would be ruined. It has to be that combination. This is a duck, like a wood duck or whatever. And that's, again, the dramatic between the white and the black is very obvious, and almost it's a very, I think, quite an attractive picture. This one is a Whiskey Jack done on pencil. This is about 5 different kinds of pencils. This is a ballpoint pen. Picture this young bride. I thought was quite attractive. So this medium is charcoal. Now charcoal is nice to work with as well. It's on a rough paper, which causes it to be lined, and it gives a nice effect. So I like that. This is a desert shake, and his camel, his trusty camel. These camels can go 7 days without water. They get loaded up with water. And when Rebecca agreed to fill Eliezer's animals with water, we're talking about 1,000 gallons. So these things are amazing, and I just like the expressions on their face. They always look so superior. They always look, like I'm thrilled. This is a young journalist that I saw in Israel. So I like to do portraits as well, which is, this is a journalist. I'm not sure. His name is Stefan, but I don't know what his last name is. Those, that's a Bedouin woman, and that's a Bedouin encampment right there. This Bedouin woman carries all her valuables, her silver and gold with her all the time. So that this is her dowry. This is what she brings to the wedding when they marry, and this is amber. This is real amber. All the jewelry in the Middle East generally is the real thing. It's not plastic. This is the real silver. Yeah. So that's a Bedouin gal that I saw. Okay, this one I'm very happy with. It's this is the headwaters of the Jordan River coming out of Mount Hermon. Place called Panyas, or Pan, where they used to worship Pan, the earth god, and that's just down below this. And this is all done in pencil, crayon. So it's what I enjoy doing. And my favorite one is mountains, of course, being from the West Coast. So this is a mountain near Revelstoke, BC. And this again is crayon. So I do quite a mixture of different kinds of material, kinds of mediums. Now, I wouldn't be right if I didn't show the cedar trees of Stanley Park, which takes 6 men hand to hand around to get the girth of them. They're enormous. You can drive a car through one of them. So this is again a subject I love. Growth is very important. This feeling of growth and energy and I can explain, it's kind of intangible. But you can capture that, I feel, in black and white is even stronger than color. Okay, so that's a few things. This is an exotic place in Jamaica, which is kind of a cave arrangement. Then I have to show you the house, one of the houses practically the house that we lived in. We didn't live in exactly this house, but one just like it, made in 1901. And it has character. This is a kind of a new venture in the sense I'll be spending more time with this. And one of the things that I wanted to do is get into the art world in Israel because it's very rich. in terms of quality and people and the rest of it. So I hope to spend more time in Israel, involving myself in art lessons and the rest of it, either giving them or taking them. And I think I can add something to the art world there.